here's what happened. You might be trying to hold yourself to a higher standard, but the consistency isn't there. So this question comes up of why am I uncomfortable setting a new standard for myself? Because you could be feeling intense pressure as you try to hold yourself to a higher standard, and then it can get really fucking exhausting. Where over time you feel like you go back to your old ways and you get stuck in this loop, and then what can happen is you start to think there's something wrong with you, or like you're broken, or like what the hell is going on? Why can't I make this work? As you're working on your business. And so, whatever the new standard could be, if that is in your personal life or if it's working on your business, this question to come up of why am I uncomfortable setting a new standard for myself is a natural question to have happen. And I'll throw back another question your way to reflect on. And that is, why do you want a new standard for yourself? This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for being here. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I get really excited with this commitment I've made through this show of sharing with you what it really takes to make burnout extinct. And this is based off of my own personal experience of hitting burnout back in 2018 after a social media conference I founded where 500 people came together. It caused me to experience a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering, I believe, that I don't want anyone to have to experience as well. And so I go to this quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can recognize what is going on through the signals that are coming from your body and make the adjustments and adapt on a habit level and then deeper than that on a belief system level, then it is absolutely possible for you to make burnout extinct. And the simplest way that I can answer that question of like, well, how do you make burnout extinct? Simplest one is to feel more energized than drained in your life for the majority of time. And so it comes back to this other quote from someone I really appreciate for how they live their life. And I've learned a lot from, John Butcher. And he shares that there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And through this show, it's figuring out your right way of making burnout extinct, because it can be different for each person for how to navigate that. But it comes back to mastering this skill that I believe is one of the most important skills that you can master as an entrepreneur. And that is communication with your body, recognizing the signals that your body is trying to communicate to you and the message within those signals. And then again, adapting on a habit level, and then even deeper than that on belief system level. So let's dive into it for today. Today, I do want to talk about this question that can be coming up for you right now of why am I uncomfortable setting a new standard for myself? I've experienced it. I've been there, so you're not alone in it. And that's this problem that I talked about of the consistency isn't there for holding yourself to a higher standard. But it comes back to then why? Why do you want to have a new standard for yourself? That can help you as fuel to be able to move forward and continue to show up. And it's reminding yourself that you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You are going to have the off days, and that is natural as well. But that doesn't have to be an excuse for you to not get back on track and continue to move forward. So one could be for a why is that you feel your life isn't in alignment with who you are wanting to become. Well, it goes back to what do you want out of life as you're working on your business, recognizing that the business is just one part of your life. So it's what is the business fueling for the quality of life that you want to create for yourself? How does that feel for you? And so if it's not in alignment, then that could be why you want to set a new standard for yourself. Or another one could be that you believe you are capable of more. There's just more out there for life. I believe in life's about growing and being able to discover more about yourself and tap into more of that potential that is within you, because I go to this powerful principle, which is the principle of immense potential, where we have more potential within us than we could ever develop in our lifetime. So true fulfillment, where that comes in, is being on the path of developing your potential. So if I'm continuing to grow and make progress in my life in different areas and discover more about myself, then for me, I feel fulfilled. And so that could be a situation right now where you feel stuck. And so you believe you're capable of more. But it's giving yourself that space right now to figure that out for yourself of what the why is. And you may already have it right now. It's coming up and you're like, oh yeah, that resonates. That one's it. Or this one here resonates. You can take a moment to write that down if you can, or to just feel into that. But then you have these fears that can come up. Or I think about it, you get shitted on a lot of times by other people of you should try this strategy, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And then we can lose that connection to actually what do we want. And so the fears that could be coming up relating to this question for you is that friends could be making jokes about you starting a business. Like that could have been something that you experienced in your past when you first started the business. So then you have this fear that you're going to have more jokes that as you move on to these new standards, which if it hasn't already happened for you, it's happened for me where friends can naturally, I can drift apart and drift away from old friends. One of the reasons was this, I also got jokes at the beginning of starting my business way back over a decade ago when I started off as a DJ. And a lot of those friends, like a lot of the friends back then, I'm not friends with anymore. And so that fear could be coming up for you right now as you're going into this new standard. The friends you do have, are they going to still be in your corner of support? The other one could be that people are telling you to stop trying so damn hard. Has that been an experience right now? I know that comes up when I'm trying to work and get being able to move closer to what I have for the vision with this business and then the vision for my own quality of life. I can get that sometimes where it's like, hey, are you taking care of yourself? Which again comes back to the work that I'm doing here and sharing with you of making Brown extinct. It's such an important part of it is for me to also be able to put the reps in for what I'm sharing with you. But that still comes up. It can come up as you're trying to move into these new standards for yourself. And then the other one could be people telling you to stop putting so much pressure on yourself. And what happens with that for the pressure, and you can be experiencing that right now is physical pressure. That pressure, it can be so easy to go along with what people are telling you of, hey, just ignore it, keep pushing through, or take a break from it, be able to avoid it. It's like, don't put so much pressure on yourself. But I believe that is so much more fucking exhausting to try to avoid it or push it off or try to ignoring it rather than just facing that pressure, because it's a signal from the body that is trying to send you a message, and it's for you to listen to what that message is, feel into that message, and then adapt on the habit level and then deeper than that on a belief system level. And I'll get to it a little bit later for what I mean with that body signal of pressure, what that represents relating to stress, specifically the burnout beast weapon of choice for the body that can cause you to head for one way ticket to hitting burnout, which is the chronic stress. And so it's remembering with burnout, similar to the new standards. I think about it in the perspective of your business for the context. I define it as a major life transition that's forced on you by your body. But just to remind you, in the context of the business, it's having to close down the business or let go of the business because you don't feel like you have the capacity within your body to handle either the growth that is happening or the challenges that you're dealing with in the business. But both of them can be causing you to feel an intense amount of stress. And over time, that can lead to chronic stress, which then leads to which can lead to chronic inflammation and then chronic exhaustion, which is a generic first red flag of hitting burnout. And so I'll get back to this other thing about capacity a little bit later on for another question that you can reflect on. But before that, let me get into the truth anchor technique. And so for the truth anchor technique, if you haven't heard it yet before for how to do this is a way to connect back to what is it that you want. So much information's out there, and it's just going to get faster for the changes that are going to happen in the external world. So for internally for you, I believe one of the best things you can focus on for yourself is focusing on continuing to move towards that inner peace. So then you can face the challenges that you're dealing with externally. And so that also comes with having to tap into a lot of courage to be able to do that and face these fears that can come up and bubble up. But with the truth anchor technique, it helps to connect you back to what it is that you want. And specifically, what it is repeating your name 3 times. So saying, my name is Robert David, and then noticing where you feel your voice vibration. Is that in your stomach, in your chest, in your head? But knowing, connecting to that, and you may have to do this more than a few times if this is the first time of you trying it. So what I like to do is I like to put a hand on my chest and on my stomach to just connect even more back to my body in the moment. And then, repeat your name 3 times. So my name is Robert David. My name is Robert David. My name is Robert David. All right, I got to do that one more time. My name is Robert David. Where I notice that for the vibration is in my chest. And so I'm like, fuck yeah. That is when I know if someone is giving me a strategy, if I'm looking at new ideas or feeling into new ideas and feeling into new strategies, if I'm feeling it in my chest, then that's a great sign from my body that this could be something that resonates for me and that I can continue to pursue it and put time and energy towards that. Because a lot of wasted time and energy and money can happen when we're going down these paths of certain things that just do not resonate for us. And so for contrast, what I'd like for you to be able to do now is repeat a made up name 3 times, because it isn't your name. So it's not going to resonate for you, and noticing where that vibration of your voice comes up in your body, where you feel that. And again, if you like, you can put your hand on your stomach, on your chest, and then repeat it again. So I'm going to use John as a name. My name is John. My name is John. My name is John. So where I notice that is because I got to switch up the name because I've been using John a lot and I feel like my body's getting confused. So for me, where I notice that is back of the head, even out of the body. Like I don't really feel it resonating for the vibration anywhere in the body. So you can imagine it like kind of like out of my, up in my head or even behind my head is where that lands for me. And that I know whenever it comes to things that I'm looking at for new ideas, I'm like, all right, shit. That's where I feel it in my body for this new idea. That doesn't resonate. I'm not gonna waste my time with this energy because I don't want to do things if I actually don't resonate with it. If I don't have some sort of connection to it or curiosity or interest, it's like, why the fuck am I doing that? Like that's a waste. And for the longest time, I had a hard time dealing with that. Or had a hard time focusing on shifting that within myself as a belief, because I always, thought that with life it comes with having to do the halves. I have to go do this. That I have to show up for this person. I have to be there for this. But that was all these past beliefs that didn't serve me any longer, and bringing attention to it and awareness about what the hell my beliefs are and what do I want, and then how can I go out there and serve and support people that I really care about and be able to serve a mission that I really care about. And I know you're similar, where you really care about the work that you're doing and the impact it's having on the people that you're serving. But at the same time, it's making sure that you're connected to what is it that you want, what fuels you, because then you can show up even better for those people and for other people in your life as well. So this is a great technique to come back to. You can always come back to this. But now it's going to, why are you uncomfortable setting a new standard for yourself? So coming back to, you now understand why you want to set a new standard, but then why are you uncomfortable setting a new standard for yourself? Because again, this is natural. And so some questions that you can come back to the truth anchor technique for noticing where you feel these questions that come up, for figuring out how you feel about them. Here are some that you can feel into. Another question: will people judge me for expecting more? Can I actually handle the new standard? That comes to capacity. It even might bring up these internal reasons for why you haven't already done it. And so then you can feel that guilt of like, I could have done this last year. 3 years ago, set the new standard. Or I've been stuck in this loop for however many years it's been. And that can bring the guilt, the shame, the anger even. But all of that you can use as fuel. I think about it, especially the anger. This other one of what will I lose if I raise my standard? That can come back to friends. Am I going to lose friends? Am I going to lose part of who I am as my identity of who I think I am? The other one could be, but what got me here, or like the if it's the systems, the habits, the strategies, the beliefs, it got me here. And so you can have this connection to all those, and even like an honor of like they got me here, so why would I let go of them? Another one is, at least I know how to deal with this situation. Like, it's familiar. It can feel safe with being familiar. You can have that for the nervous system of it feeling safe. Like, you know how to handle this. So the unknown, I mean, going back to that other one of like, can I handle this new standard? That can create an intense pressure and make you really uncomfortable. Or if I raise the bar, will I still be able to keep up? This, am I good enough to handle this? Am I actually not going to fucking burn out and go and hit burnout? Like, all that doubt that can be swirling, I call them these tornado thoughts that happen, that can, what I believe, my belief, but off my personal experience, the work here is that it can be even, there can be more energy put towards the doubt, the overthinking, rather than just like tapping into the courage, having faith, and just moving forward. And then whatever happens, figuring it out along the way. I think there's a lot of that stress that we can create within ourselves of the overthinking, the doubt. And then we sit in that. And then you can feel helpless in that. And I really believe that's more exhausting than just tapping into that courage, knowing that there's going to be mistakes along the way, and then moving forward. But it doesn't have to be an all or nothing where it's like, I'll go in blind, like without a plan or a strategy or anything like that. I'm just going to go for it. Like, I'm not saying that, but just to be able to like let go and move forward. That's where I feel you can absolutely get more energized. And then that goes back to connecting to how to make burnout extinct. So for the pressure, I want to share with you what's going on. So you could be feeling that pressure right now. It could be in the stomach. I usually feel my pressure on the left side of the stomach. This is natural for pressure. It's a signal from the body, and can be, for the majority of time with pressure. I think about it in my own life, and then through this work, it's connected to the stress that you feel. You feel stressed. And so what can happen is that something is, for your nervous system, it's registering it as a perceived threat. And so you can get in that stress response. That could be the thoughts that you're having, these tornado thoughts. It could be something that happened in your immediate environment, like in the physical world. And so what happens is, I imagine it as this pressure balloon, as this balloon literally filling up, or like, not literally, but you can imagine it in your body filling up with stress. And so your body has a capacity to handle a certain amount of these pressure balloons, certain amount of stress, before it gets to the point where you go past your capacity. And that is where one of the ways your body can force you to release the stress out, because either way, the stress has to come out some way, could be by hitting burnout. And that I don't want for you. So a focus for you is to pop these balloons so that you can release the stress out. And how that can feel is, again, pressure. It could be like a gnawing feeling. And then you could have certain ways, certain patterns, because there are patterns that we experience in this world: sunset or sunrise, sunset. You're no different with your body. You could have this pattern that happens where if you feel the pressure and the gnawing feeling, your body could react by distracting from that feeling. And so you could get into sloth mode where you don't actually move forward, don't make any progress. If that's progress with the work tasks you got to get done in the day, you might start to distract yourself going through, going on social media, or go like not focusing on the tasks that you got to get done for that day and keep pushing it off till the very last minute. Or you can get into pinball mind, where you're like pinballing all over the place and you're doing like half finished projects. Nothing really gets done. And then you feel so exhausted at the end of the day. And then you're like, well, shit, I got nothing done. So those could be patterns currently that are happening for you. So it's really important to remember that when you face that fear or the feeling, when you face the feeling, and then you could have this fear that bubbles up, and, again, with the pressure balloon, this fear bubbles up. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. The feeling can be really intense, but then it's remembering it's temporary if you move through it. And so when you feel uncomfortable setting a new standard for yourself, recognize that this is temporary. And as you continue to put reps in and move through it, it won't be so intense of a feeling. And when you can face that, you're going to continue to get the messages of what ways can you adapt on the habit level, and then deepen that on a belief system level. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But that is really important to make those shifts so that you can continue to move forward. So again, I believe it absolutely is less fucking exhausting to face it rather than try to distract yourself or numb yourself from the feeling. And the distractions, we have so many different ways to distract ourselves. If that's going to different events, or even online, there's so many different things that can cause us to not focus on what it is that we actually want and this new standard we want to set for ourselves, and putting in the reps to move forward in that. So again, remembering that your nervous system is there to protect you. And so something that's unfamiliar can be taken as a perceived threat. This unknown, when you set a new standard, it does create an unknown for your future path. You don't really know what to expect on the other side of that. You have hopes, you have desires. You can even have faith in like believing, okay, that whatever's on this other side is going to be able to really support what it is that I want, and the impact that I want to make. But there is an unknown. And so, of course, then it's going to be natural that you'll feel uncomfortable, because again, that's where that pressure can come up within the body for a feeling, because it's something new. And so the nervous system can take it as a perceived threat. But again, mastering that skill of communication with your body is so important to always come back to that. Your body's constantly communicating with you. And so how I connected to this is back in 2021, I remember going to my brother's, my brother had a gym in his garage, and he had this pull-up bar there. And this was when I had moved back in with my parents. It had been after I hit my burnout, and I was really struggling. I felt stuck, but I wanted to make a change and focus on getting back to feeling more energized than I was then. Because, with working on a business, one thing that's common that you can see, but is something that I don't believe has to happen, is that your health suffers as you work on your business. And I'm really grateful again for John Butcher, someone who I've learned a lot from, where you have so many different areas of your life that are interconnected. And so your health and fitness is interconnected with your career and the work you're doing for your business. Because if I'm feeling more energized by focusing on my health and fitness, then I can be able to channel that energy, first create more energy, and then channel it to be able to help me to think better about the business challenges. And then that can help me to speed up time and move forward, and then be able to save a lot of energy, save a lot of time, and then potentially save a lot of mistakes, or save myself from a lot of mistakes that could make me waste a lot of money as well. And I know I've experienced that in the past. And so for me, I remember going to that gym, going up to the pull-up bar, and I used to be the guy that could play like 3 sports or I used to play 3 sports in high school. So I could do a bunch of different pull-ups. But at this point, this is 2021. I go up to the pull-up bar. I remember this. Like, I get up there, grab it with both hands, try pulling up. I'm just like struggling to get even one. And so I get it, then come back down, and then there's no way. I don't go back up for a second one. And then, man, that is a gut punch to my pride. And I remembered feeling a lot of shame, of like, damn, like I'm at this point right now in my life where I can't even do one pull up. And so what happened was that was a moment for me. I remember it where I wanted to set a new standard. I wanted to make a belief shift change. At the time, I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this. I remember grabbing my phone, recording video, and saying, like, enough's enough. Like, I'm going to change this. And so what then led me on was this journey of focusing on my health and fitness over these past few years. And now regularly, like, I could do like 10 pull-ups now. And that growth that happened and that commitment to a new standard, it came with the ups and downs that I want to get into, so you don't have to have as many of these ups and downs as I did and actually continue to move forward. And so it's remembering that there's going to be a price tag. It goes back to that, back to this price tag principle, where I like to reframe it as a positive, where when you bring in something new, then something else you have to let go of and shift and change. So that could be on a belief system level, it could be on habits, it could be just something that you're doing right now that you're going to have to let go of. And so instead of thinking it as, oh, I'm going to have to sacrifice the time away from the business to work out, instead, what happened for the reframe was I was like, okay, the workouts, they're going to create more energy that makes me then think better about the business challenges. Yes, I'm going to take the time away from in that immediate moment from working on the business. But in the long term, this is going to be giving back so much time. And then I'm going to feel so much better as I'm continuing to move forward. But it's remembering I have to change what I'm doing right now for my schedule. Like I'm going to have to make these changes and shift them up or shift what's going on. And so for you, it's remembering that yes, there will be a price, but then in the long term, what can that give back to you for your life as you're setting this new standard? And that can be really helpful as fuel to continue to move forward. But I had my ups and downs over the years where I would get off track with working out and I have to get back on track. And so what's really important also to remember is that you have certain beliefs that are in the driver's seat of your life. And so for me, at the time, I didn't realize this, but I had this belief that I was working on, and I actually got clearer and clearer with it, which at first was this belief of like, okay, it is possible for me to get better, to feel more energized, or just get better at my fitness. Like it's possible for me to do that. And so I started to put the reps in. But then it got to this point, as you can imagine it, with like a broken swing, where I was staying stuck. So like I felt the momentum forward, but then I'd get off track for a few days or even longer than that. And so I would swing back. And it's important to remember that's natural for your body. Your nervous system wants to bring you back into balance. So you'll have that moments of feeling this momentum of moving forward. And then naturally you're going to feel yourself come backwards, go backwards. This is where the a saying can come up of like 2 steps or 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. But when you can understand that this is a natural process, then you don't take it so personally and it doesn't become so overwhelming for yourself. So then what's important is to also continue to grow the beliefs in all these different areas of life. But specifically with this one, I got to a point where I said it is possible for me to get better at working out. To then I got to a point where I said, I believe that I'm an athlete. And then I got to the point where I said, I believe that I'm an elite athlete. And so how I show up is different for staying consistent. And then how you can imagine that for the swing is I got, just one chain on the swing for this broken swing for one belief. Now I've added a new empowering belief that propels me forward. And so I feel that, so you can imagine it, I'm holding on to both of these beliefs now. I'm sitting in the swing. I'm feeling more stable in that swing and I'm moving forward with that, with more confidence, swing backwards, understanding that, even getting excited for the swing back. So I realize I'm going to swing on back forward. And then after a number of repetitions, what happens is then I can jump off that swing and then move it on to the next broken swing and either upgrade that belief again or focus on a different area of my life. But the way you put in those more repetitions is figuring out for yourself, what are the habits that are going to support this empowering belief to make it more familiar for my nervous system? And so one could be, for me, making sure I'm going out for a run or making sure I'm getting an intense workout in. If that's a HIIT training style workout, something that makes me sweat, that feels like that makes me feel like I'm an elite athlete. Like I'm putting it on the line, and then staying consistent with that, being able to show up and just have a habit of I'm going to sweat every day. in some way through a workout, that helps to put the reps in to reinforce that empowering belief. And then as I put in more of those reps, becomes familiar with my nervous system, then it just becomes easier to continue to show up for all those other habits. And it becomes this really cool process for yourself and this pattern that unfolds. But it's remembering that this does take time. This doesn't happen overnight for you. But as a recap, it's making sure you understand why you feel uncomfortable right now, recognizing that it's natural and that the feeling is temporary for facing that pressure. And then getting the message that comes through from your body for what needs to be, what you believe could be adapted on a habit level, and then even deeper than that on the belief system level. And that comes back to what is the new empowering belief that you could add in with this new standard that you're setting for yourself? And then what are the habits, one or two, that you can focus on for putting the reps in that will support this empowering belief for it to become familiar for yourself? So you can continue to show up, put the reps in, and then have that be the foundation for yourself for the standard. And then you can go on to the next stand, setting a new standard for yourself. And it becomes this really cool pattern of growth. And what that does is it gives you this gift of being able to tap into more courage within yourself. And then not only that, what happens is you're able to grow that confidence within you, to realize that you can handle whatever the challenges are going to be that are going to come your way. And that can transfer to all these other areas of life, not just working on your business, not just in the health and fitness, but with relationships, with being able to connect with friends, connect with strangers, being able to continue to provide, to make an impact in this world and impact in your communities, an impact for yourself. And you show up differently. And it's such a powerful gift that you can give yourself. And so if you haven't heard it yet today, I want to tell you, I believe in you. You have the capability to master this skill of communication with your body. And remembering it's not an overnight process, but remembering where you start isn't going to be where you end up, as long as you keep moving forward. And then along the way, for these moments where you put the reps in, celebrate them. Because small wins, they lead to the big wins. You got this.